Reminder to read chapters 1, 2, and 7 for this week. Yesterday, we began our conversation talking about your career plan and your career outline. The biggest takeaway from yesterday's session is knowing and understanding, hopefully, how critical some type of career plan is. I say some type because, as you get started, once you continue progressing in your career, obviously your plan will change. There's a saying that says to write your plans in pencil, not pen, because you will adjust your plans as your career pivots into different areas or as you learn more things, technology, whatever. There's so many things that will affect your career, and you'll have to make adjustments. So having at least an outline is critical. We also talked about how an assessment is important, right? You need to take inventory of what you're starting with. You don't do anything without taking it. You don't bake a cake without saying, "Oh, let me look in the cupboard to see what I have." Right? So even when you're you know setting your long-term goals, you have to figure out, okay, now that I know what it is I want to do, what am I starting with? So yesterday we touched on this doing this self-assessment in an effort to help us, evaluate what our starting point is. Um, do we have any questions about the self-assessment yesterday, the long-term goals you're supposed to be setting? Are we all okay with that? All right, all right, all right, all right. Now, if there's any issues with your long-term goals, you remember I told you I wanted those long-term goals to be SMART. And if we recollect from yesterday's session, we know that SMART means what? They have to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So I want to see long-term goals that are fully stated with some type of end date on it, right? My long-term goal is to become a master electrician by 2031. My long-term goal is to become a HVAC journeyman by 2031. My long-term goal is to become a veterinary technician specializing in internal medicine by 2032, whatever, right? I want to just see fully stated goals with end dates. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about these skills, and it'll all make sense when we bring it together tomorrow, because we'll really fully understand how this inventory of your skills um, is going to, you know, help you not just do your plan, but also figure out how you're going to promote yourself and, align your skills with what people are looking for as you look for different opportunities in your career. So let's think about this. We all know that we need some basic skills. What are they? I don't think anybody questions, the need to know how to read, write, speak, listen, do basic math and technology. We all are okay with those skills, right? Hopefully so, right? Now, we also know that we need technical skills, which i.e. hard skills. I think we all are in school to learn those technical skills. Most of us already have basic skills, and we come to the table with a lot of soft skills, but what we don't have are the technical skills, and that's why we're here. But when we talk about these soft skills, what chapter 2 does is it breaks down your soft skills into what we call employability skills, and things that can transfer into the workplace. Because yes, we all have these soft skills. Either we've acquired them in our lives, or they're part of our personality, as you probably have learned from taking that personality test. But how is it relevant to our career? Well, it's relevant in a sense that a lot of these skills are things that employers are looking for, right? So we also call these soft skills employability skills. Um, We all know somebody, and you tell me if this statement is true or not, that can do well at a job, but people skills they do not have. Give me a thumbs up if you just, we don't have to talk about it. They could be to the left or right of us. We're not gonna point them out, but we know the we know those people, right? For some reason, they all work at the DMV. I don't know what it is, but so we know plenty of people that have technical skills, but some thinking skills, some personal skills, some people skills. We don't know what happened, right? I guess they ran out before they got at the top of the line. So you can imagine that when you do interview with people, they're not just listening to see if you have technical skills. They're also listening, my friends, to see what type of foundational skills, what type of soft skills you have, because they know the type of environment that you're going to work in, and they try to highlight it in the job description, and we'll be digging through those job descriptions tomorrow. But, um, you know, they don't tell you everything, but they are sizing you up to try to see what type of soft skills you have, especially, let's say, they work in a sensitive, company where they have a lot of trade secrets, or it's like really high pressure, time sensitive projects. They're going to look to see if you will be a good fit in that. They're going to look to see how you come across, so they're always looking at these soft skills. So let's break them down. They typically come into three categories. One category is thinking skills. That should come as no surprise. The other category is people skills, and then these other personal qualities that they want you to bring to the table. Now, when we talk about some of these thinking skills and people skills, we're really going to dig into those when in the coming weeks, when we start to break down uh, this thing called emotional intelligence. And has anyone ever heard of that before? Emotional intelligence. If you haven't, just put a pin in it for now, because when we get back to actually talking about you know physically working at a company, so this week is all about figuring out what it is you want to do. Week 2 is all about promoting yourself in marketing and doing interviewing and that type thing. Week 3 is all about, okay, I'm in this job, what is it, well, all about networking really. And then week 4 is all about, okay, management, being with people, emotional intelligence, and things of that sort, just to help to, manage your expectations of how this is going to flow. So when we're introducing these topics of being able to think clearly, people skills, and personal qualities, that's how they're going to be relevant. It's going to be relevant in thinking about what you bring to the table to help you with your career, but also what people are looking for. It's going to be relevant in terms of how you promote yourself. It's going to be relevant in terms of how you network. And obviously, it's going to be relevant in terms of when you're physically working. A lot of companies are also very, very concerned with how you behave at the job. We call that workplace ethics. So ethics, we all have them. We know that there are moral principles or belief that determine your own behavior. We grow up with it, right? Um, and typically it comes from our family dynamic. I'll never forget, I had a conversation with a fellow coworker up in New York, and he taught me something, because I'm a Southern girl from Florida, even though a lot of my family is in New York and New Jersey. I went up there to work in New York, and me and this gentleman at the time, this was years ago, but and I was like not fresh out of the military, but he was like maybe 10 years out of the military. Yeah, maybe 10 years. So I was still kind of militant, right? And, so I was, you show up on time, you do your work, yada, yada, yada. And this guy was like, oh, he was the complete opposite. He would get off the train late. He'd have to stop and get a bagel. Us New Yorkers know what that means, right? And he would just come sliding in late all the time. And he used to get under my skin a lot. And he knew it. I wasn't his boss or anything. It's just that, my principles was like, how can you not come to work on time? Military people, you come early, right? You come on time, you're late. And so one day we ended up in this conversation because he knew he was getting under my skin. And he was, talking about how, in his, you know, when we ride the train, somehow we were talking about the train or something. And he was like, I don't get up for old people. I don't get up for pregnant people. And I was aghast. And he just was doing that to get a rise out of me. And I was like, well, what would make you say that? And he goes, well, because my grandmother said that, we don't have to do that. And I was like, but society says that you do. So he goes, so are you saying that if I agree with society, then that means the entire way I grew up is wrong? And it stopped me in my tracks because what he was really saying is that, so I was challenging his entire construct of right and wrong, right? So if he were to agree with me, that would mean that his construct of right and wrong, was being challenged, and that meant that he was wrong. And even though that was just a simple conversation, it taught me so much. It's like a lot of times when you see people push back, they're pushing back on their reality. Does that make sense? Like a lot of times people feel like they're just trying to correct your behavior, but a lot of times you're pushing back on somebody else's reality. And and even though that was a simple concept, showing respect to elders or someone that's in a health condition. That is essentially what he was saying, and I had to like really think about it and give him some credit for saying that you need to understand that you know sometimes when you challenge people's reality, they're gonna push back. Nobody's just gonna allow you to shift their entire thinking, but nonetheless, when you come to a job, everybody has their own belief system. Um, Fortunately or unfortunately for us, every company also has their own set of ethics, right? So it goes back to me saying to you yesterday, you really need to think about um, what your value system is because it may affect how you see the world, and that could make you decide whether you want to, work at a company or not. When you go to work for these companies, they're going to have these ethics that they're going to, want you to adhere to. Oftentimes, they'll tell you in orientation and they'll say, okay, listen, when you come here, we have a certain code of conduct, we have a certain code of ethics. What's the difference? Well, your code of conduct, it has everything to do with dictating how you behave while you're at work and when you're representing the company. There's a code of conduct. In the Army, they used to make us carry it in our upper left hand pocket of our shirt, always knowing what the ethics and the morals and the code of conduct was because they want you all to adhere to it. And I think you all can agree. If you see a military person, especially a Marine or an Army person, they kind of all act the same, right? Yeah, because they shove that code of conduct down your throat. Like they make sure you understand how they want you to behave. The code of ethics has everything to do with how you do your job. Take, for example, Chick-fil-A, right? We all have had the Chick-fil-A experience, have we not? Most of us, if you've ever eaten at Chick-fil-A. And can we all agree that it's very different from like McDonald's? Why is that? A lot of it has to do with code of conduct and code of ethics. When it comes to code of conduct, it's how you behave, how they want you to behave. Make sure you call people by name. Make sure they say have a wonderful day, whatever that phrase is that they say, right? Everybody has to adhere to it. Code of ethics is how you do the work. If Chick-fil-A is more than a few minutes beyond waiting for food, what are they going to do? They're going to give you that little card to say thank you for waiting. They're going to, try to, give you little points on your little system. I know that's how they do me anyway, right? That's code of ethics because they want their company to be associated with this work because it is for customer service reasons. Trust me, it's not because they just love being friendly. It is what differentiates them. So it's very important to a company that you adhere to these ethics. So that's going to be important when you're choosing companies that, you have to say, okay, is this an environment that I want to work in? You have to be very, very careful, each of you, especially the VA program, but each of you really, and understanding what's different, the difference between ethical and illegal. I say the VA program because, sometimes you guys may be dealing with medicine and y'all already know what happens with medicine, right? That's a controlled substance. So you have to be extra, extra diligent in following the rules. Another reason why you have to be diligent is because once you get into a career, like the more higher up you go into any career, there's things that are illegal. Like you can actually be doing things at your job that could be illegal. And y'all know what happens when you do something illegal, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's called court. Your company cannot save you if you do something illegal. Some examples in the book are discrimination and harassment, which people don't even recognize as illegal activity. Yeah, you can get sued and go to court for discriminating and doing harassment, even if you're doing it while working at somebody's job. Not sure if you know that, right? So one of the things that a company will do is when you're in your orientation, they're going to make sure that they give you that handbook, and we'll talk about how that handbook is part of your contract. That's why you have to sign that you receive that handbook, and they're going to talk about all the do's and don'ts. Now, how many of us actually read that handbook? Not a lot of us. My friends read that handbook because they're telling you things that are illegal, unethical, and what can get you fired and what can possibly get you in court, right? So you got to be very careful with understanding what that is in your respective industries. And now a lot of days, well, nowadays, working online and some type of online environment could be a part of your job. But let me tell you something else, which is, more money, more problems. If you haven't heard, once you become a professional, some of you may not like this. Now you have to watch what you do outside of work. Clutching your pearls. What you mean, Miss Taylor? I work 9 to 5. Well, no. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Once you become a professional, all of a sudden, yes, all of a sudden, how you behave and perform outside of work still matters. That includes what you do online. Have any of us ever seen these social media posts, these TV, what they call them, news about somebody losing their job because of something they did online? Uh-huh. Yeah. Right? Okay. So we call that digital footprint. What does that mean? That means that everything that you do online can be used against you. But what if I'm on my own page? Sir, ma'am, you're never on your own page unless you have your own server and you have your own website. You are not on your own page. You are on a page that is being sponsored to you on behalf of Meta, Google, or whomever else, and they keep track of what everybody does. Now, they may not let it be open to everybody. You put your little parameters on there. It's private. No, it ain't really private because they have access to everything that you do. And sometimes things that you do can be leaked. What if you post something one time, as soon as it goes out there, you don't know, it takes a matter of seconds before someone copies it. That's it for you, my friend. If you say something wrong or you do something wrong, you can lose your job. Uh, tell me, give me a thumbs up if you think that's fair, that you should have to watch what you say online. We'll talk about this more, but I don't know if you heard about that dentist a few years ago. Well, this happened last year, I think. She was up in California, and girlfriend decided that she wanted to tell a joke about how she treated people that did not agree with her political views. Like if she was just chit-chatting with you and you're a patient, and she found out that you did not agree with her political views, she may or may not give you the right amount of pain medicine. Did y'all see that? Yeah, yeah. So y'all know what happened, right? And so watch this. The video came out years after she did it, because I don't know what happened. Somebody found it, reposted it. And so y'all know that channel 234, whatever number it was in California, was at her doorstep, and yeah, she got sued. Yeah, she got sued. Can you imagine? Like, who would say something so intelligent? Who would even do that? People just, common sense is not common, right? So you're gonna have to be careful what you do online. Yes, my friend, you want to be safe, but you want to be careful. And we'll talk more about that when we get to week 4. We start talking about security. Because why are we talking about that? You are going to be online whether you like it or not, and especially when we talk about networking, you're going to have to be online. That we're in the digital age, my friend. Nowadays, if you don't have some type of online presence, it's going to be very difficult to network. It's going to be very difficult to find opportunities. Things are not just, local, like we it used to be back in the day. Cloud computing has everything to do with just understanding that a lot of your companies, just like we here at Southern Tech, are using cloud-based systems. We're on the cloud now. Your Canvas is on a cloud system. All of our servers are on a cloud. And so your companies may have, a lot of them may be using Microsoft or Google, and they'll just want you to know that basic terminology. Don't freak out about it now, but just understand that that may be something that you may have to brush up on, especially if you're going to be doing any type of administrative work, which hopefully all of us will do at some point. As you work your way up through the system, you will be, whether it's you have to fill out reports, do time cards, especially if you're working on projects or whatever it is you have to do. So just, be familiar with that language. Not that they'll interview you, it's going to be an interview question, but that could be an expectation. Y'all know how it is. Every company expects you to know how to use a computer, whether they say so or not, right? No company expects you to say, man, I don't even know how to turn this thing on, right? People expect you to know those basics, that basic technology. So that may or may not be an issue in some of your respective fields. Intellectual property is just simply, anything that belongs to the company. Most of you won't have to deal with that, at least not in the entry level, but once you get into project management and, maybe they start doing bidding, especially contract bidding and big time bidding and stuff like that, you may be privy to information that you can't share. So just know that that is a thing. So that is what chapter 2 is talking about. Obviously, if you worked in more like technology based or engineering or things like that, or even in healthcare, where they actually created product, then you would get more into the IP type stuff. But for most of you, it's probably just going to be contract bidding or something like that. But either way, obviously you can't, share company information. When it does come to being online, like I said, being mindful of what you say and what you do is going to be important. And so this really comes into um play when it comes to promoting yourself. And so as we talk about networking, just be mindful that in chapter 2, they'll say that you got to really learn how to engage online. Y'all know it. Y'all have all seen it. We used to call them Twitter fingers. I don't know what they call it now, but y'all know Twitter fingers is people that like to what they call them now, keyboard Nazis, and people that like to fuss and argue and say all kinds of crazy stuff online. Like I said, with your digital footprint, you don't want to do that. But even as you may have to engage with your customers and coworkers, you want to practice good etiquette, and when we talk about business writing in week 3, this will come into play. But just knowing how to write and talk and engage online, we call that etiquette. A lot of times people feel like they can shortcut the system because they're dealing with people online, and that's not something that you want to do. So that's what chapter 2 is really talking about. There's some core rules to netiquette. One, remembering everybody's a human, using the same standards, know where you are in cyberspace, respecting others, making yourself look good online. Representing a company is key, right? Just always have those workplace ethics in the back of your mind. You do not want to lose a job because of something you did or said. My friends, you are going into an industry, and especially if you don't plan on moving around, that your industry is small, right? Let's just say you may have a good 30 companies in your respective industry in your region, right? Let's say in your town. That's not a lot of companies you can sift through, right? So you don't want to make a name for yourself. You don't want that reputation because the companies know each other, guys. Not every, maybe they don't go out golfing together, but people know each other, whether it's through, you know, associations, just meeting at different conferences. A lot of times companies are all up for the same job and bidding on it. They share employees. You may have this one guy that used to work at this company, but now he's the supervisor at that company. Like, your world gets really small when you get into an industry, right? That's the good part and the bad part. So you always have to be thinking about that. And that's why you want to maintain. Remember, think of yourself like a business. And you got to think of yourself like, you're protecting your reputation, right? This is about you and protecting your reputation, not just about you representing a company, right? You want to represent yourself well as well, because you may go to another company and you don't want to have a bad reputation. Like, you don't want something to get out and to spoil your chances of going to another company. All right. So guess what? That's all we're talking about as far as that is concerned. Please read chapter 2 and start reading chapter 7 tomorrow. We're going to really dig into resume writing. But let me tell you what you're about to do now. I'm going to walk you through this scheduler, because in this class you will be working with career services. I'm not sure how many of them have told you that already, to do 2 projects. One, career services, your respective career services at each of your campuses will be reviewing your resumes. How many people know that? How many people have been told your resume is going to get reviewed by career services? Very good. Some of you, your resume have already been reviewed by career services. That's great. However, your even if your resume has been reviewed by career services, they still need to see it for this class and sign off on it saying, yes, I've done it, seen it already. Yes, I have a copy of it. Career Services is going to keep your resume on file. That's one of the reasons why they need to see it. And they need to say, yes, this is a resume I can use, because remember, they're helping you to get opportunities for employment. So they need to promote you. They need a copy of your resume. So if you have one, or let's say they did it last month, you don't have to get it done again, but you still have to make an appointment with them and have them put a signature on it. By next Thursday, they should have given you your resumes back, or if you don't have one, they're going to help you create one, and you're going to turn in that signed resume on next Thursday. So you have to schedule an appointment with them. Number 2, and that'll happen for next week. So you're going to schedule an appointment for next week, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Number 2, so it's 2 appointments. You're also going to schedule a time to do a practice interview with them. So you will be doing what we call a mock interview with career services. And you'll be doing that in week 3. So you're also going to schedule a time to do a mock interview with them. So once you go into the scheduler, and some of you don't have schedulers, I'll show you in a minute. You're going to say, you're going to set these 2 appointments, 2 separate appointments, and then you're going to come back to this assignment, and you're just going to tell me. You can copy and paste the little ticket receipt you got, or you can just tell me resume writing, um, Tuesday at 3 o'clock, mock interview, Wednesday, whatever that date is, at 4 o'clock, right? So it's going to be two different times that it's going to go into this assignment. Does everyone understand that? All right. So let me show you really quickly what that looks like. It's fairly simple, but I want to make sure we all understand. Let me just tee it up real quickly. Let me see. Okay. So, and I may need to change those dates on there, so don't pay attention to the dates if my dates are wrong. But when you go into the assignment, right? So you can go down to the modules, or you can go to my little shortcut, however you want to do it. Sorry,
Okay.
you guys put yourselves on mute. I just want to make sure we don't hear anything by mistake. You're gonna scroll down, and you're gonna go to, obviously we're in week 1, right? And go down to Wednesday, right? And so the assignment, scheduling with career services. And I know I didn't update these dates. I got to update these dates. These dates are off. But you're going to schedule for career services for resume writing next week, and mock interviews the week after. I'll change these dates in a second. But how do you do that, which is most important? Every campus is different. So make sure you read here. ATA, yours is simple. You guys are going to meet with career services. They may have already given you a flyer. Have they given you a flyer yet for ATA for minors? If not, career services, yeah. So yours is easy. You got your flyer. You just go to this assignment. Just tell me resume and mock interviewing on this day. You're done. So that's all you got to do for today. Now, Brandon, you see here, you guys have a little link that you need to click on. So you click on this link, and 3 other of you, your campuses also use this system. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go down to resume writing, right? They say it's for an hour. Everybody's campus is different. So you're going to click here, and then you're going to choose a time for next week for resume writing. So starting Monday, choose a time and do it now, guys. There's a lot of people taking this class. It's not just my class, 3 other teachers teaching this. So you do it now. I think my class is first, so you better do it now. Um, choose a time right away. So if let's say I just chose 9:30, and then I put in my information, and then I put in my email, my name, my whatever, and then I hit continue, and then it'll ask me to confirm, and then I'll get a little receipt. Then you go back into the system and you do that again for your mock interview, right? So if I go back into the system, well, let me go back. So let me go do it again. I go do it again, and I'm just using Orlando this time, but same thing. I can do mock interview, 30 minutes. Choose with Orlando. You guys have different people because it's a really big campus. So make sure you choose the right person. Okay, I'm in HVAC, so I'm choosing Princess. And then the same type thing for mock interview, that's going to be in week 3. So that won't be, you may have to do it like this, or you can, so we're in week 2 now. I mean, we're in week 1, this is week 2, this is week 3. So you may want to choose one of these dates, or you can just, if you want to see everything that's available, you could just do it that way. Find the time for week 3, choose your time now, 11 o'clock, same thing, put in your information. Then you come back and you tell me the 2 times. Make sense? Now, Sanford, you guys don't use this system. Sanford, you see here, they say call that number. You don't have to write it down now. You can just come into the assignment and do it. Or you can call directly. You can call Nancy directly, or Vicky. Arbondale, you have your appointment setter. Um, you have Port Charlotte, which I don't think we have anybody here. Tampa, you have yours. Very good. We understand? All right. So I'll update those
Yes.
dates. All right. All right. So with that being said, yeah, we about to get on out of here, y'all. We about to get on out of here. All right. Let me go back.
All right. Have a good one.
No, wait.
Oh,
I was
okay.
teasing. Let me give you your participation question. I was just saying what you guys were thinking out loud. All right, now here's your participation question for today. I want you to name, because we keep that I'm promoting myself hat on, and this is all going to make sense when we talk about networking and promotion next week. Name one quality that sets you above the competition, and that can be a skill too. You know what? And only Miss Taylor's going to see it, so don't feel bad about bragging. Name one quality that you think sets you above the competition, and one quality that you know you need to work on. It could be the same as a skill, one quality or something you know you need to work on. Maybe it's, I want to start my own business, and I've already ran a business before, so okay, I know that's going to set me above the competition. Um, One quality that sets you above the competition, and one quality you think you need to improve on. That's your question for today for participation. All right, my friends, if you don't have anything else from me, you are free to go. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you back here tomorrow.
All right, enjoy the rest of your day. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Bye bye.